Greetings, mortal. One does rather wonder, in these turbulent times, what fresh calamity might next befall the world of video games. Wars, economic woes, the perennial disappointment of English weather, yet here we are, once again confronted with the perennial non-event that is the Xbox hardware decline. In news that has stunned precisely no one who has been paying even the faintest attention, Microsoft's latest financial disclosures reveal that sales of Xbox consoles have, for the umpteenth consecutive quarter, taken a modest tumble. A 32% year-on-year drop in hardware revenue over the holiday period, to be precise. Jolly good show. The Xbox Series XS, those imposing black monoliths that resemble nothing so much as a particularly stern refrigerator, managed to shift somewhere in the region of 2 million units throughout 2025. A figure that, in the grand scheme of console history, sits somewhere between respectable and oh dear. By the close of last year, lifetime sales hovered around the 34 million mark. Not disastrous, one supposes, but hardly the sort of number to set the Redmond boardroom alight with triumphant backslapping. To put this in perspective, and one does enjoy a spot of perspective, Sony's PlayStation 5 continues to chug along quite merrily, while Nintendo's Switch remains the undisputed champion of the living room. Xbox, meanwhile, appears to have settled into third place with the resigned air of a fellow who has accepted he shall never win the Village Fates Victoria Sponge competition. The charts, should one bother to consult them, paint a picture of steady, almost courteous decline. Quarter after quarter, the orange line representing Xbox hardware revenue dips with the polite inevitability of a curate lowering himself into an armchair. One almost expects it to offer a murmured "after you" to the competition on its way down. Microsoft, ever keen to accentuate the positive, points to the robust performance of Xbox content and services, chiefly the subscription juggernaut known as Game Pass. A splendid idea in theory: pay a monthly fee and enjoy a library of games rather than purchasing them outright. Rather like joining a lending library, only with more explosions and fewer overdue fines. Yet even here, growth has been somewhat anemic of late. The company's chief financial officer has admitted, in the sort of carefully worded corporate speak that could make a vicar blush, that performance was below expectations. A diplomatic way of saying the holiday quarter was, in cricketing terms, a bit of a duck. The root of the trouble, whisper the analysts, and rather louder shout the forums, lies in Microsoft's increasingly enthusiastic embrace of the multi-platform strategy. Why purchase an Xbox, the reasoning goes, when one can play the latest Xbox exclusives on a PlayStation 5? Or, for that matter, on a PC, a cloud streaming device, or quite possibly one smart toaster in the near future. Titles that once would have been trumpeted as Xbox exclusives now arrive on rival platforms either day and date or shortly thereafter. Fable, Forza Horizon, even the venerable Halo, all destined for PlayStation shelves in due course. One imagines Sony executives receiving these announcements with the restrained glee of a man discovering his neighbor has decided to mow his lawn as well. Phil Spencer, the affable head of Xbox, continues to insist, with the earnestness of a schoolboy promising he has indeed done his homework, that hardware remains central to the company's vision. There is talk of a next-generation console, possibly a hybrid device, perhaps something innovative. One suspects the innovation may involve running Doom on a kettle. Mr. Spencer has assured enthusiasts that Microsoft is committed to delivering great games across Xbox, PC, cloud, and every other device. A statement so broad it could encompass playing Call of Duty on a 1980s ZX Spectrum, should the whim take them. The fan base, naturally, is divided. One camp rails against the betrayal of exclusivity, proclaiming the death of Xbox as a hardware platform with the fervor usually reserved for declaring the end of civilization. The other camp, rather more pragmatically, simply plays the games wherever convenient and wonders what all the fuss is about. There is, of course, precedent. Sega, once a titan of the console wars, gracefully exited the hardware race in 2001 to focus on software. Atari, Zenith, a litany of fallen names. Microsoft, with its bottomless coffers and diversified empire, is unlikely to vanish entirely. But the notion of Xbox as a dedicated console brand, duking it out toe-to-toe with Sony and Nintendo, feels increasingly like a quaint relic of a bygone era. Price increases have not helped matters. The Series X now commands a sum that could purchase a respectable second-hand motorcar in certain markets. One suspects the target demographic, largely young people with limited disposable income, may have demurred. And yet, Microsoft soldiers on. Handheld devices in partnership with Asus, cloud streaming initiatives, ever-expanding Game Pass libraries. The strategy appears to be, if we cannot sell you the console, we shall sell you the games regardless of where you play them. A perfectly sensible business decision, if somewhat lacking in romantic appeal. Whether this marks the beginning of the end for Xbox hardware or merely a prolonged dip remains to be seen. The company has teased significant announcements for the brand's 25th anniversary later this year. One awaits them with the same measured anticipation one reserves for the next budget airline delay announcement. In the meantime, the decline continues, steady, predictable, almost soothing in its inevitability. Like the slow fading of daylight on a winter afternoon, or the gradual realization that one's favorite tea shop has begun serving decaffeinated as standard. One supposes there are worse fates for a once mighty console brand than to become merely another content provider in an increasingly crowded digital marketplace. But it does rather take the drama out of things, doesn't it? This is your humble servant the Nerd Reaper, and I put the grim gaming takes in the bag.